By the powers vested in me as Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees and diplomas with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred and awarded to the candidates whose names appear in the program. We request all of you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. As Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, I extend a hearty word of welcome to you at this virtual graduation ceremony. I would like to welcome our Honorary Doctors, Professor Ghai and Professor Katarina Boele-Woelki, the Dean and the Deputy Dean of the Faculty, along with all persons to whom degrees and diplomas will be conferred and awarded to. We also welcome families, friends, and spouses to this virtual graduation ceremony. This is the third virtual graduation ceremony the university has held in the past year, after we were obliged to depart from the traditional graduation format as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, which, as you know, has made large physical gatherings impossible for the time being. Our first virtual graduation season commenced just 10 days after the declaration of the national state of disaster towards the end of March 2020. It was memorable not only for that sobering reason, but also for a more agreeable one. During those first virtual ceremonies, the University of Pretoria conferred 11,001 qualifications on graduates in absentia. This was a record number for the university and one of the largest graduating cohorts, if not the largest, in South Africa at the time. I'm delighted to share with you that the autumn 2021 graduation season is now breaking that record. In this graduation season, we'll be conferring a total of 11,424 qualifications, including 198 doctorates and 1,289 master's degrees. This is a great achievement, especially in these uncertain and unpredictable times. Such an achievement is simply magnificent. I mean this on two levels. One is the outstanding personal effort you put into persevering with your studies when normal study routines and methodologies had suddenly been upended, and I'll say more about this later. The other level concerns the collective contribution of this graduating cohort to the skills of our country and more broadly our continent. Compared to the rest of the world, South Africa and Africa as a whole have very low graduation rates per capita, a state of affairs that perpetually widens the skills gap. The fact that we at the University of Pretoria are now graduating such a large number of cohort of graduates is good news indeed for the development of our country and the continent. But this welcome injection of skills is not only about numbers. Just as important are the kinds of skills and the quality of skills that you, our graduates, will be bringing with you into whatever career or study pathway you choose to pursue from this point. For instance, the University of Pretoria students once again excelled in the ITC, the Initial Test of Competence, which is the first professional exam for prospective chartered accountants. In November 2020, students from our Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences again achieved first position in South Africa. This feat followed on the first place we achieved in the January 2020 ITC, when an unprecedented 7 out of the top 10 students in the country were from this university. In addition, UP won the 2020 Chartered Institute of Management Accountants CIMA Prize Winner Excellence Award, as well as the Institute's Global Excellence Award at its first ever virtual award ceremony. These awards recognize university partners with top performing CIMA students in case study exams, as well as university partners that have achieved the highest pass rates for CIMA exams. What makes these accomplishments even more special is that our students excelled despite the disruption of having their ITC exam deferred from June 2020 to November 2020 owing to lockdown regulations. Well done to every one of you who was part of this incredible effort. Not content with notching up all the accomplishments I've just listed, we are also making history. One of our PhD graduates, Dr. Tumeka Mashoba Raimudzisi, is the first Black female chartered accountant to receive a PhD in leadership. This is a noteworthy achievement, testament to your commitment and dedication. Congratulations. If time permitted, which it unfortunately does not, there will be many other examples of achievement under pressure that I could share with you as testimony to the resilience and endurance of the human spirit. In my book, every one of you has shown resilience and endurance during unprecedented turbulence and upheaval. The university is proud of you all. All your hard work, tenacity and resilience has helped to get you to this point. Yes, the Institute certainly played its part. As the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, I know what efforts and energies were invested in keeping the academic program going and enabling our students to succeed during the most protracted campus closures in our history. But what stands out for me is not the effort UP made in rolling out laptops and remote learning technologies, so much as the skills you, our graduates, gained from the experience. For our graduates to make a difference in society, they need to be creative, flexible, resilient, entrepreneurial, and collaborative. I can state with confidence that this graduating cohort has these qualities in abundance. They will serve you and our country well. University too has learned a lot from this pandemic. As you know, our preferred mode of teaching and learning before this health crisis has been the hybrid approach, a delivery model that makes use of traditional classroom-based learning tools supplemented by online and technology-supported activities. On the strength of our experiences online during this pandemic, we are reimagining the modes of teaching and learning that we are adopting for the future. Teaching and learning are going to be interesting spaces for innovation, creativity, and experimentation. Above all, we aim to provide a rich interactive experience that is educative and not just instructional, and which results in well-educated, skilled, socially engaged, and sensitive graduates, eager to transform our society, our continent, and the world. We also aim to enable students to become graduates who can engage in lifelong learning, where they unlearn and relearn. In this way, they can navigate the emerging world of work that is an outcome of multiple disruptions of the life and the world as we know it, including the disruptions caused by rapid technological change. In the near future, we'll be launching a Center for the Study of the Future of Work. Allow me to touch briefly on the disruptions you, our graduates, experienced during your studies in 2020. I know that all of you were affected by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic while you were studying. However, what I and my colleagues at the university do not necessarily know is what trials and tribulations you, individually and personally, experienced while completing your qualification. We do not know what difficulties and distractions were going on around you while you were studying for that crucial test or writing or revising the next chapter of your thesis or dissertation, or what additional responsibilities you took on in your living space and with regard to your loved ones while soldiering through your year of completion. Were you perhaps one of the many South Africans separated from loved ones as a result of traveling restrictions and border closures? What personal sadnesses and sufferings and hardships did you endure as a result of COVID or otherwise in that most crucial time of your studies? Did you suffer loss of family and close ones, friends, fellow students, or colleagues? My colleagues and I cannot know what your lived experience was as you toiled to complete your degree, diploma, or certificate. What we do know without a shadow of doubt is that your success is hard-won and deeply deserved. Earning a qualification from the University of Pretoria is an achievement to cherish. Earning qualifications in the time of COVID-19 is in a class of its own. You, together with the 11,001 graduates of autumn 2020 and the 1,380 graduates of summer 2020 are unique. You have succeeded, and we celebrate your achievement today. On behalf of the broader community of the University of Pretoria, please accept my heartfelt congratulations. Your graduation ceremony is your moment of triumph to savor, celebrate, share with family and friends, and remember for the rest of your life. We hope to one day return to physical graduation ceremonies where graduates can walk across the stage in the presence of family and friends and take photographs. For now, virtual graduation ceremonies such as these play an indispensable role in your journey with the university. This is because a virtual graduation is a legally constituted assembly that enables you to formally graduate so that you can receive your certificate and use it to open whatever doors you have intended to unlock, whether in the form of further studies, of course at the University of Pretoria, or in your career or profession. May it lead you to more opportunities and serve you well. Turning now to the future. In the same way that you and your fellow graduates are on the verge of the next stage of fulfilling your dreams for your life, so is the University of Pretoria. As I briefly mentioned earlier, we've been using the challenges presented by the global health pandemic to begin rethinking, reimagining, and repositioning the university itself. The university can play an essential role in co-creating the country and continent we want post-COVID-19. Here at the University of Pretoria, we see an opportunity to be one of the agents and drivers of change in Africa and globally, finding and deploying innovative ways to address poverty, unemployment, inequality, and social injustice. UP, as you know, is a hub for new ideas. When it comes to COVID-19 research, we are involved at multiple levels. We are researching genome profiles to be able to identify who in the population is at higher risk of contracting fatal viruses and other diseases. We are also researching how people in society behave during a pandemic. Because if we don't understand this, we cannot manage the spread optimally. We have participated in international COVID-19 clinical trials and produced sanitizers, face masks, and face shields. Our Faculty of Health Sciences quickly incorporated COVID-19 into the primary healthcare curriculum. This is how we will need to respond to pandemics in the future, with rapid responses focused on multi-sectoral interventions. For example, our university is the only representative from Africa in the new University Social Responsibility Network, an international group of 16 top universities. And last year, the Times Higher Education's Impact Rankings rated UP among the top 100 universities in the world for its social and economic impact in 3 categories based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, otherwise known as the SDGs. These are quality education, industry, innovation and infrastructure, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. We envisage a better, more sustainable world characterized by prosperity, genuine democracy, peace, equity and equality, social justice, and ethical use of all resources. And we are convinced we can co-create this just new world through high-quality hybrid teaching, together with transdisciplinary research and social engagement that is impactful. And of course, this co-creation must harness the collective expertise, energies, and goodwill of our family of alumni, among whom you, the season's graduates, can now be counted. As the new alumni of the University of Pretoria, remember the values from UP to always strive for excellence, persevere, respect everyone, be creative, innovate, embrace diversity, grow, be a lifelong learner, be kind, and make a difference every day. This is what makes the UP way of life. I appeal to you to be part of our quest to rethink, reimagine, and reposition the University of Pretoria, and in so doing, contribute to the co-creation of the Africa we want. Please take the next step by downloading the UP Connect graduate up, keeping you connected to your alma mater and offering access to the many opportunities available to our alumni wherever in the world you are. Remember to always keep in contact with the alumni office at UP and let us know when your contact details change. No matter where you end up in the world, remember that you are part of the UP family, whose overarching strength is its diversity in terms of staff, students, the programs offered, and areas of research that define its excellence. We're an institution on its way to becoming a beacon for demographic diversity and inclusivity, a future-oriented and focused university that is a driver of social change. Congratulations on your graduation and enjoy the celebrations with your loved ones. Take pride in the sense of achievement that comes with knowing that you have excelled against all odds. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidate for the Honorary Doctorate.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I have the honor to introduce to you Professor Katerina Boele-Woelki for the conferment of the degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa. Professor Katerina Boele-Woelki completed her undergraduate studies at the Freie Universität Berlin, Germany in 1979 and obtained a doctoral degree from the same university in 1982. Professor Boele-Woelki was a professor at the University of Utrecht until 2015, whereafter she became Dean of Bucerius Law School in Hamburg, the top-ranked law faculty in Germany. Professor Boele-Woelki is internationally recognized as a leading scholarly authority in comparative law, family law, and private international law. She is the first woman to be elected president of the prestigious International Academy of Comparative Law. The Academy, which was founded in The Hague in 1924, is built on the firm belief that the comparative study of legal systems is key to the harmonization, unification, and development of laws and legal institutions. Furthermore, it is crucial to the peaceful and efficient regulation of human movement, commercial interaction, environmental issues, sustainability goals, and human rights across vast areas of municipal and international law. In her inaugural presidential address, Professor Boele-Woelki declared her mission to reach out to and advance the study of comparative law in South Africa and the greater African continent. To this end, the University of Pretoria has been nominated to host the 2021 International Academy of Comparative Law Congress on Diversity and Plurality in Law. Professor Boele-Woelki also established the Commission on European Family Law in 2001. The Commission has consistently produced high-quality research on family law matters in a rapidly changing social environment. Its most recent publication on de facto unions responds to empirical data from a vast number of countries showing the high incidence of children born into informal unions. The principles formulated by the Commission set an international benchmark for law reform, also in South Africa. True to her altruistic and self-effacing nature, Professor Boele-Woelki's focus is intent on making a positive and enduring contribution to the comparative study of different legal systems on the African continent and beyond. She has decided to invest a significant amount of time and effort in Africa, as well as making available her considerable scholarly expertise and international research networks to the University of Pretoria. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the Honorary Doctorate on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa with all the rights and privileges on Professor Katerina Boele-Woelki. I have the honor of requesting our Honorary Doctorate to deliver their address.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear graduates, I've just had an honorary doctorate conferred on me by your law school, which is the best in South Africa and on the African continent. I'm extremely proud to receive this academic award as a token of your appreciation of my scholarly work, my interest in and engagement with your fascinating country and my professional connections with so many colleagues in your law faculty. I would have loved to have been with you now and to have thanked you all personally. I'd like to say a few words about the educational objective of legal education. Your Dean, Elizabeth Schumann, has rightly set the standard high. Quote, "Our aim is to equip our students with the required knowledge, skills and perspectives in order to produce highly sought-after graduates who display leadership and critical thinking abilities and are aware of their social and ethical responsibilities." Unquote. Legal education indeed requires that students are taught to think critically and that they are educated to become socially and ethically responsible citizens. Both goals are of paramount importance. Critical thinking should enable you not only to ask questions about the legislative rules that have been enacted by the legislative body, you should also question the decisions of the highest court in your country or the authoritative opinions expressed in legal textbooks by famous legal scholars. In legal practice and legal scholarship, this is our daily bread. We have been trained to doubt ready-made solutions, question their rationale, and offer new solutions that are appropriate for the changed circumstances. But how can we offer other solutions? The easiest way to find inspiration for developing a different solution or rule is to cross legal borders, since outside our own jurisdiction, a plethora of different approaches and solutions exist which might provide a better approach, might be more efficient, might comply with our needs, and might, however, also dispel possible doubts that our solution is the right one under the given circumstances. It is astonishing that, as far as I can see, critical thinking in legal education is not always associated with adopting a comparative perspective. Those who advocate critical thinking usually do not explicitly recommend that we look beyond our own legal system and immerse ourselves in the comparative approach. It will not surprise you that I think differently, and of course I'm not the only one. To my mind, adopting a comparative perspective widens your horizons and provides inspiration. For decades it has been used in lawmaking, legal doctrine, and judicial decisions. And almost 100 years ago, it was institutionalized at the global level with the establishment of the International Academy of Comparative Law, which, incidentally, in October this year, will be holding its thematic international conference in Pretoria. If critical thinking unites all who are working in a legal environment, are they obliged to consider foreign legal systems? Must the justification for a decision always contain a comparative approach? In answering these questions, we must distinguish between lawmaking, legal practice, legal scholarship, judicial decisions, and other legal contexts. In all these areas, to a greater or lesser extent, the comparative approach may be and has been used. A closer look at the question whether courts should use the comparative law arguments points to a hotly debated issue. It is said, among other things, that foreign law cannot have any binding effect in one's own country, and that therefore the comparative approach is a wasted effort. However, your constitution rightly takes a different stance. It provides that when interpreting the Bill of Rights, a court must promote the values that underlie an open and democratic society, must consider international law, and may consider foreign law. This is the wording of Section 39, Paragraph 1 of your Constitution. For more than a quarter of a century, your Constitutional Court has considered foreign law on numerous occasions. Empirical analysis clearly demonstrates that your highest court has never considered foreign law to be binding or even overruling, and in this way it has kept its independence. The role foreign law should play in the decision-making process has been convincingly explained by Justice Ackerman. Quote, "One is doing no more than keeping the judicial mind open to new ideas, problems, arguments, and solutions." Unquote. I couldn't agree more. Hence, The comparative law perspective should be firmly anchored in legal education and should form part of legal practice and legal scholarship. The demand to think critically obliges us to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Katarina Boele-Woelki, for your address. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidate for the Honorary Doctorate.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I have the honor to introduce to you Professor Ghai for the conferment of the degree Doctor of Laws, Honoris Causa. Professor Ghai is a Kenyan academic and constitutional lawyer. He has made considerable contributions to legal scholarship in Africa, especially in the development of constitutions and constitutional law on the continent. Born on 20 October 1938, Professor Ghai studied in Kenya and the UK, and he holds an LLM from Harvard University and a doctorate from Oxford University. Professor Ghai has had a long and illustrious career covering academia, civic engagement, independent commissions, and international diplomacy. The academic positions he has held include that of lecturer, senior lecturer, professor and dean at the School of Law, University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and positions at Yale University, Warwick University, and the University of Hong Kong. Professor Ghai has a proud record of intellectual contributions of high academic scientific merit, making him an acclaimed champion of scholarship on constitutionalism, the rule of law, and the respect for human rights, with particular relevance to Africa. His contributions traverse the academic, civic, and diplomatic spheres as illustrated in his distinguished career, making him an outstanding African public intellectual. His defense of the ideals of democracy, constitutionalism, and the rule of law has sometimes been at the risk of his own life and freedom, as he has had threats on his life and was exiled from Kenya due to his justification of a credible and democratic constitution-making process. While his legacy lies in his instrumental role as chair of the Constitution Review Commission in the drafting of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya and as co-founder in 2011 of the Katiba Institute in consolidating social transformation in Kenya through civic engagement, his influence on constitutional thinking and practice has extended far beyond one country. His broader influence is exemplified in his appointment as Special Representative on Human Rights of the UN Secretary-General in Cambodia, his chairpersonship of Fiji's Constitutional Committee in 1993 to 1994, and his drafting of the Asian Human Rights Charter. The Honorary Degree Award recognizes Professor Ghai's vast contribution to constitutional dialogue, particularly in the African region. While his scholarship and contributions have previously been honored on several occasions, too little of this recognition has come from the African continent, despite him being African. Honoring Professor Ghai with this award is closely aligned with the University of Pretoria's vision to be a leading, globally relevant university in Africa. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the Honorary Doctorate on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Laws Honoris Causa with all the rights and privileges on Professor Ghai. I have the honor of requesting our Honorary Doctorate to deliver their address.
Permit me to begin by expressing my most sincere condolences to the University on the untimely death of Professor Christoph Heinz. It has come as a great shock to the international human rights community. I am very grateful to the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the distinguished University of Pretoria, Professor Tawana Kupe, for the invitation to this auspicious event and doing me the great honor of the award of its honorary doctorate. My connections with Pretoria go back many years, when I learned so much about South Africa's efforts at independence and establishing the basis of a fair state. I was new to politics, but met some key South African politicians when I passed briefly through your country on my trips to Nairobi from Hong Kong where I was a teacher. It was great learning about the complexity of establishing an independent state, and I was very fortunate that leading South African politicians helped me understand the complexity of this process. When I was persuaded to take on the role of chairing the process of preparing a new constitution for my country, for Kenya, the culmination of what we call the second liberation, it was obvious to me that we would learn a great deal from your own country. First, a number of distinguished South Africans came to Kenya and made valuable contributions to our process and our thinking. They included Justice Yonoe Mokoro, Justice Pius Langa, and Jeff Burlander. And in our final document that emerged from a second process, including another South African, Christine Murray, there are many echoes of yours. Most obvious is a Bill of Rights. Ours is not identical to yours, but many of the provisions are, and the basic approach to formulating a Bill of Rights drew very heavily from yours. The second prominent example is in the financial provisions on devolved government. A side effect of this has been the relevance of the exciting jurisprudence of your constitutional court to the interpretation of our own document. I always say there is no bar to plagiarizing the Constitution, and we have benefited from yours enormously. Let me now turn to the great pleasure it gives me to have been honored in this way by this particular university. This university has made a great contribution to legal developments in this country, particularly in human rights. Very many Kenyans have benefited from the chance to study at Pretoria, and the country has benefited too. To give this aspect the human touch, I turn to colleagues at Katiba Institute, an institute that I founded with Jill Cottrell-Ghai and Waikwa Wanyauke, our first executive director, to promote implementation of the Constitution and foster constitutionalism in Kenya. Katiba plays an important role in Kenya, maintaining the constitutional values of Kenya's system. In a particular way, our two institutions play roles which strengthen each other. I am told that my colleagues had already particularly appreciated the multinational nature of the student body, which enrich our learning through different perspectives, and the excellent learning resources and environment that the university provides. Finally, they mentioned the learning culture at the university, which encourages students to engage in current affairs in Africa and beyond, and as part of their academic learning. Katiba Institute is a small organization and just 10 years old. Yet our programs, our programs manager, Ben Niabiro, and one litigation counsel, Amila Chinama, are alumni of your institution, as is our previous Director of Research, Dr. Conrad Bosire. Further, 5 students of the University of Pretoria, the Center for Human Rights, have in the recent past interned at Katiba Institute as part of their University of Pretoria academic qualifications. Katiba Institute also partners with many alumni of your university in our daily activities, ranging from research, policy advocacy, and capacity building on the Constitution. Further, several colleagues at Katiba Institute also regularly attend the advanced human rights courses at the law faculty of the University of Pretoria. This is just a little snapshot of the impact you have had in my country and of our mutual interaction. May I conclude by wishing this distinguished university may go from strength to strength, and its next 113 years be even more productive and path-breaking than its first. Thank you again for the invitation to me.
Thank you, Professor Ghai, for your address. I hereby confer and award all degrees and diplomas in absentia with the associated rights and privileges to all candidates whose names appear in the graduation program.
Doctor of Laws, Laura Ausalad Jones. Thesis: Individual criminal responsibility for the financing of entities involved in core crimes. Supervisor: Professor D.D. Gladi. Ndumiso Dladla. Thesis: Not Yet Ubuntu, Towards an African Critical Philosophy of Race. Supervisor: Professor M.B. Ramose. Johannes Esterhuizen. Thesis: A suitable regulatory regime for bargaining council funds as independent retirement funds. Supervisor: Professor M.M. Buerta. External Co-Supervisor: Professor D. Millard. Shazan Grobler. Thesis: Regulatory Framework for Psycholegal Assessments in South Africa. Supervisor: Professor P. A. Carstens. Co-Supervisor: Professor G.P. Stevens. Nelson Gekana. Thesis: The effectiveness of adopted OECD transfer pricing dispute resolution mechanism in an African context. Supervisor: Dr. B.T. Kujinga. Joshua Lutz. Thesis: Infrastructure for Development, the use of human rights impact assessment in public-private partnerships. Supervisor: Professor D.D. Bradlow. Mbagiso Mahwape. Thesis: Establishing a legal framework of special and differential treatment under the World Trade Organization. Definitive rights for developing countries. Supervisor: Professor D.D. Bradlow. Magali Masamba. Thesis: An African perspective on reforming sovereign debt restructuring of privately held debt. Supervisor: Professor D.D. Bradlow. Veronica Modi Ebe. Thesis: A critical analysis of the right to the city for women refugees and asylum seekers in Tshwane. Supervisor: Professor K. van Maal. Co-Supervisor: Dr. I. de Villiers. Ayodele Sogunro. Thesis: Advocacy, social control, and the criminalization of same-sex relationships in Nigeria. Supervisor: Professor F.J. Fulyoon. External Co-Supervisor: Dr. C.M. O'Connell. George Wara. Thesis: State recognition of customary land rights in the Kenyan Rift Valley. Supervisor: Professor J.F.D. Brandt. Doctor of Philosophy: Eduardo Capapello. Thesis: The role of state institutions in preventing violent conflict in Angola. Supervisor: Professor U.M. Glander. Perekeme Motu. Thesis: The role of civil society organizations in litigating the right to basic education in South Africa. Lessons for Nigeria. Supervisor: Professor A.M. Skelton. External Co-Supervisor: Professor S.A. Joyu Kamga. Master of Laws: Muhyiddin Alabi. Oteng Mogoeng. Levon Miller. Peter van Staren with distinction. Banking Law: Edward Hayes Jr. Benjamin Janssen van Rensburg. Rehopotswe Madlala. Bukosi Mtukoshe with distinction. Witness Ndlovu. Dimitri Dosoni. Child Law: Stephanie Bazairenaut. Comfort Pasha. Constitutional and Administrative Law: Michael Gwala. Consumer Protection Law: Sikhulule Mabece. Edison Mohane. Apiwe Mpigwa. Corporate Law: Marco Akangeli. Jacques Duprier. Tabelo Kangale. Lou Leroux. Sizalobuhle Mkwanazi. Nicholas Petzwinkler. Itumeleng Pasha. Lindy van Square. Disability Rights: Nkasi Sefuti. Estate Law: Candace Amon. Extractive Industry Law in Africa: Frida Amuela. Edwell Maposa. Obet Mawadze. Cornel Pinar. Lentle Simelane. Human Rights and Democratization in Africa: Fatou Salah. Insolvency Law, Hans Jacob Geldenhuys. Insurance Law and Governance, Eileen Ackerman. Adam Prinsloo, Glynis Strydom. Intellectual Property Law, Calvin Castle. International Air, Space and Telecommunications Law, Blessing Oguntuwase. International Law, Chido Chikogora. Oluseyanam Ezekiel Oko. Combat Masinga. Ayodele Ojedokun. William Sibanze. Labor Law, Danielle van Heerden with distinction. Mercantile Law, Wesley Grimm with distinction. Lemohang Litsie. Mikateko Mafuyeka. Yamgela Mhlawuli. Wolisani Murobi. Tolwana Ncheke. Motomone Sitlako. Inga Siberachen. Lungile Swandle. Multidisciplinary Human Rights, Vivian Kasunda. Simpiwe Khumalo. Private Law, Shani Bartlett. Anke de Wet. Procedural Law, Resemate Maswangane. Tendai Monyati. Sexual and Reproductive Rights in Africa, Ligeleli Matubatuba. Tax Law, Sean Franken with distinction. Leletu Mbangi. Master of Philosophy, Law and Political Justice, Shipoyila Khosa. Zwelinzima Ngangela. Medical Law and Ethics, Sijeng Diale. Bachelor of Laws, Ramiza Abdul Sattar. Denise Ackerman. Willem Ackerman. Baker Tobe Adigwe. Eilenique Adonis. Mornay Africa. Dimitra Alexandro. Mehra Amiri with distinction. Tatenda Amisi. Koketso Apane. Rebotile Apane. Jessica Arnold. Ada Assad. Julian Augustine. Lianai Badenhorst with distinction. Marissa Badenhorst with distinction. Beulah Baduza. Jonathan Baker with distinction. Khunsi Baloyi. Darren Barnabas. Gina Barnard with distinction. Lindy Barnard. Daniela Basso with distinction. Stephen Beer. Tapawanashe Ben-Hura. Christoph Berndt with distinction. Inga Bierkes. Laika Bika. Hartu Plignoot. Martha Botha. Neil Botha. Bianca Botma with distinction. Sisanda Boya with distinction. Alita Breitenbach. Dylan Bronkhorst. Duan Brodryk with distinction. Mamoloko Butane. Lindoguhle Buthelezi. Wesley Butters with distinction. Maria Bass. Adrian Kamara Nunez with distinction. Kezia Cameron. Kirsten Carstens. Megan Carstens. Angelica Cavallo. Tia Castellan with distinction. Teresa Chen. Dylan Chetty. Prishni Chetty with distinction. Augustine Chilwane. Tsehofatso Chilwane. Trish Chininga. Talma Chinyamurindi. Tebucho Chweu. Carla Kutsia. Taryn Cogger. Brandon Cole. Romy Kumain. Nicolette Conradi. Vickers Conradi. Willem Cornelius. Ralph Dam. Artika Tom Mullingham. Sharifa Daud. Aaron Davidson. Heidi Davis with distinction. Nicholas De Decker with distinction. Michaela De Freitas Goncalves. Shannon De Vries with distinction. Kristen De Wet with distinction. Michael De Wit. Magdalene Dalpoort. Nicholas Diaz. Lloyd Dietrichsen. Shanray Dixman. Sibahle Lala with distinction. Benele Lamini. Wayne Lolo with distinction. Laura Dreyer with distinction. Carly Dupria with distinction. David Dutoy. Philippus Dutoy. Andrew Dutton. Angelique Dumenage. Courtney Diason. Jason E. Sa with distinction. Ivana Louise Edwards. Shanna Eason. Simone Engelbrecht. Daniela Erasmus with distinction. Natasha Erasmus. Ashley Esterhuizen. Rowleen Faber. Maxine Fenner. Charlene Ferns. Luca Ferrara. Sibel Ferreira. Helena Ferreira. Marius Ferreira. Brandon Furry with distinction. Jana Marie Fourie, Jeanty Franks, Mariska Fryer, Jessica Fung, Gisalri Garbers with distinction, Caitlin Gardner, Janice Giel with distinction, Gergana Gergova, Cheyenne Gewens, Nadia Geiser, Daniela Gilino with distinction, Martal Gilbert with distinction, Cherise Gavea, Kyle Hueson, Mayite Graham, Leonard Gregory, Ruan Greilen, Marco Grijvenstein, Pieter Griesel, Denel Grobler, Kyle Grootboom, Luyanda Gumerte, Esti Goldenfenig with distinction, Christy Haddon with distinction, Nobuhle Khadebe, Shadai Hajipaulos with distinction, Clara Henson with distinction, Tegan Herring, Jade Havermal, Victoria Hayes, Nicholas Hurd with distinction, Jade Heselton, Zintle Hlachwayo, Dumelo Hlongwane, Michaela Hall with distinction, Shantae Horn, Sadia Houghton, Jason Hunter, Nicola Irving with distinction, Ridwan Ismail, Danelle Jackson, Pieter Janse van Rensberg, Raisa Jogiat, Elmi Jonker, Sunay Jordan, Blair Jorgensen with distinction, Kyla Joseph, Alice Joubert, Rovimbo Kamurewo, Joel Canaras, Jan Cap, Kukuletu Kawoza, Leseja Khanyaho, Mongisi Kumalo, Tulile Kumalo, Bryce Kitching with distinction, Tsechofatso Kulube, Louis Neil Korsten, Julia Kotza, Melissa Lee Creel, Fezega Gunene, Patience Gunene, Marichal Kuiper with distinction, Charity Langa, Richard Lawson, Daniel Lemaine, Felix Leroux with distinction, Mika Leroux. He Lee. Matabo Likalakala. Tebogo Likalakala. Malebu Lekhwati. Khunzi Letsapa. Erinai Libel. Henri Locke. Gina Lodolo with distinction. Cornelis Luertz. Keanu Lutig. Makumya Memembe. Xolani Mabeza. Mbalentle Mabuya. Tato Machabapala. Soraya Machado with distinction. Lirato Matiba with distinction. Lynette Madonsela. Zethembile Madonsela. Basitsana Maduwane. Nhlalala Makwaza. Nomthandazo Mahlangu. Amira Mohammed. Awethu Majola. Tabiso Makeketa. Mamutlabaneng Makhalimele. Dineo Makheru. Joanna Makobane. Shiluba Makubele. Letitia Makombe with distinction. Aiden Malan with distinction. Precious Malibe. Kiarabetswe Malumane. Nkateko Maluleke. Tshegofatso Mampholo. Thuso Manabela. Obile Manganye. Bethwell Manyatela with distinction. Nompumelelo Manyise. Anita Mare with distinction. Oluwadamilola Martins. Yumari Marai with distinction. Nompumelelo Masango. Wandile Masango. Ntabeleng Mashabela. Itumeleng Mashego. Karabo Mashigo. Metsi Mashitisho. Tabani Masinyane. Arnold Maswodza. Simon Mateus with distinction. Newo Mateba. Katleho Matlolane. Tadiwanashe Mavunga. Ofenze Mazibugo with distinction. Chioneso Mbanje. Mngobi Mbata. Notemba Mbogane. Siobhan McCain. Kristen Makel with distinction. Lihlohonolo Mekwa. Bianca Meyer. Nicole Meyer. Busisiwe Mgata. Adonis Mhlanga. Asan Milanzi. Warwick Mitchell. Zamambo Mkize. Siyabonga Mlombo. Nompumelelo Mncube. Mia Mimoale. Lemogang Motshwari, Kwena Modiba, Tumelo Modise, Precious Mogale, Aniki Mogotsi with distinction, Kulufelo Mohlala, Nicolene Mokaila, Kamogelo Mokasepe, Mpho Mokwena, Sibusiso Mokwena, Maringaka Molefe, Mosile Moleko, Reabetswe Moloi with distinction, Lemogang Monaledi, Verushka Mudli, Lauren Moors, Boipelo Moraka, Katlego More, Lesego Morena, Renee Morgan, Zander Morkel, Ritabile Motswane, Mahlatsi Mutsoki, Karabo Mpepya, Tato Mpye, Miranda Mtembo, Ayanda Mtetwa, Figile Mtetwa, Tabisile Mjali, Martha Mtweni, Sipho Mtweni, Ruvimbo Mujere, PJ Brian Mukoki, Dembe Muntsu, Sibabale Mvundlela, Sibusiso Mzwagali, Caitlin Naidu, Natasha Naidu, Stephanus Nodia, Louis Nodia, Cinga Ndlwana, Jan Jacobus Nel, Matthew Nel, Anami Nel, Nkosinabo Ngcobo, Sithembakahle Ngcobo, Samgelisiwe Ngema, Well done Ngomane, Bongiwe Ngonyama, Mergim Nhlapho, Sianda Nkosi, Saidi Nong, Robin Norris, Kuku Ntsucha, Sanele Ntuli, Brian Nyaruwanga, Rose O'Toole Schultz, Kolade Olesogun, Esther Oko, Crenier Westhuizen, Francois Westhuizen, Abina Osai Fofi with distinction, Kimei Pakiri, Tsegofatso Papo, Ryan Parsons, Raquel Partington, Shabana Patel, Abigail Pepper with distinction, Julia Pereira, Ross Parrott, Wesley Perrin, Rebone Peter, Mbavalelo Phetheli, Boitumelo Phetla, Vian Pinar, Kia Piste, Dylan Pillay with distinction, David Popula, Rumandi Potgieter, Semisha Premlal Balderavram, Demi-Lee Preston, Yolanda Pretorius, Megan Pringle, Pooja Pundit with distinction, Hadio Raketsi, Mudalo Ramabulana, Newo Ramasodi, Diana Rana, Helen Ranger with distinction, Ngonyeletsi Ranto, Leah Rees, Mapaseka Reba, Sabrina Rodriguez with distinction, Alsabe Ruetz, Krishna Rousseau, Namatai Roswa, Vimbai Sagomba, Kutsia Saleh, Cindy Sampson, Tabiso Sangweni, Panache Saungweme, Tegan Soma, Jason Schlachter, Louis Skuman, Felix Schroeder with distinction, Manfred Schulte, Ilandre Schultz, Daniela Scott, Makhabane Sibapu, Kagiso Sebetso, Lebogang Sebiso, Reneilwe Sibitlwane, Siapulela Sekome, Tshegofatso Serepong, Kidiboni Seroke, Matsowete Shamatla, Kalipa Shange, Roxanne Shear, Basitana Shoke, Lindoguhle Shongwe, Ntomzodwa Shoyisa, Ntobeko Sbia, Abulele Sifumba, Welcome Sifunda, Surprise Silowe, Avyaka Singh, Courtney Singh, Nkosinathi Sishange, Percolate Sitole, Tsepiso Stole, Ashley Sanza, Yuanai Slubbert, Angelique Smith with distinction, Riandi Smith, Ingrid Sneyman with distinction, Lanai Sonakus, Willem Spies, Brendan Stead, Catherine Stead, Jennifer Steenkamp, Claudine Stein, Ruan Stein, Jessica Stridom, Tiavna Nishka Subroyen, Bismillah Suleiman, Keegan Sullivan, Jade Swanepoel, Marno Swart with distinction, Simone Swart, Carlo Swartz, Masichaba Tayele, Matthew Takadigi, Temran Talmadge, Lotanang Taba, Maritaba Tato, Riratilwe Tobejane, Teboho Tobela, Velen Tupana, Peggy Tusi, Promise Tlaka, Nandi Tloele, Dehan Treptau, Kanya Shabalala, Nogukanya Shabalala, Agape Chatsindi, Gudani Chikota, Moitleki Tsiane, Sizugiwe Twalo, Cornelis Ice, Ivan van der Merwe, Janus van der Merwe, James van der Meulen with distinction, Jamie van der Ross, Simon van der Waard, Sunay van Dijk, Matthew van Maasdijk, Mieke van Rensberg with distinction, Monique van Rijn, Azalia van Skalkwijk, Karel van Vollenhoven, Charles Marie van Wyk, Dwayne van Wyk with distinction, Aisha Vanya, Kurt Varko, Dina Viljoen, William Viljoen, Melissa Vivierge, Kelsey Waddle, Devin Waller, Marina Walton, Christina Watt, Samantha Whitaker with distinction, Kelsey Ray Whitehouse, Johan Willemse, Ashton Williams, Vuyiswa Williams, Tandiwe Xaba, Anathi Xoxo, Zipozenkosi Zondo, Kusi Zwane, Ntokozo Zwane.
I will now introduce to you the recipient of the Vice Chancellor and Principals Award. The following candidate distinguished himself during 2020 as the overall top achiever in his faculty. Congratulations.
Award of the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Felix Schroeder. Achievement Awards, Grotius Medal, Felix Schroeder. Chief Justice FLH Rumpf Floating Trophy, Felix Leroux. University of Pretoria Law Clinic Floating Trophy, Christy Haddon. Firm of the Year Award, the prize is shared, Christy Haddon, Ayanda Mtetwa, Alsabe Roots. Cozen, Herzog and Horak Attorneys Prize, Stephanie Bezuidenhout. Utah Law Prize, Wesley Grimm. The South African Society for Labour Law Prize, Danielle van Heerden. Adams and Adams Prize, Felix Schroeder. The annual ELA Environmental Law Excellence Prize. The prize is shared. Nicola Irving, Jessica Stradom. Bliss Prize, James van der Meulen. Dalport van den Berg Prize, Ivana Louise Edwards. The Department of Private Law Prize for Law of Damages, Tiavna Nishka Subroyen. Galdenays Malachi Inc. Prize, Christy Haddon. Harold Glasgow Prize, Felix Schroeder. Lexis Nexus Prize, Anita Murray. Norton Rose Fulbright Prize. This prize is shared. Heidi Louise Davis. Kyle Goosen. Nicola Irving. BPS Prize, He Lee. The Private Law Prize, Soraya Machado. UNESCO Africa Chair in Education Law Prize, Abina Osai Fofi. Rudolf Janssen Prize, Ingrid Sneyman. The South African Society for Labour Law Prize, Gina Lodolo. Super Sport Prize, Ramiza Abdul Sattar.
Let us give our graduates a big hand for their hard work and perseverance. I would like to thank their families, friends, and spouses for supporting our graduates during their studies. We have now come to the end of the proceedings. Please join us in singing the national anthem. By the powers vested in me, I hereby dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria.
Gaudiamus igitur juvenestum sumus, Gaudiamus igitur tu